Good morning this morning, and welcome to a top 10 jobs in college football edition of the OHIO podcast. You all know what to do by now. It's no secret. Everybody tells you to do it on their channel as well. Smash that like button. And the reason why we do is because it absolutely does indeed help. The other thing that helps, making sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're over 4,000 subscribers, marching towards 4,100 now. That's the goal, 4,100. And if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so, especially if you're a Buckeye fan. Even if you're not, we appreciate you hanging around, chilling out with us, taking part in the comments, taking part in the live chats. We appreciate all of that. Speaking of chatting and comments, that's the third thing you can do. Make a comment down in the comment section below. I know for a fact people are going to disagree with this list today because we all disagree on lists. We think our list is the best. So let me know what we did wrong and what would you change about the list. All right. Last night on the Sunday night discussion roundtable, our panel all had a top 10 list of the top jobs in college football. This is that consensus of that list added up, put in the nice little algorithm and spit out. And here we go. We'll go from 10 down to 1 and on my commentary for each one. Let me take another drink of this morning's brew. All right, here we go. Number 10, Penn State. Now, two of our panelists had Penn State in their top 10. One had them at number 7. The other one had number 8. Two panelists did not have Penn State in their top 10, but I would say they're probably just on the outskirts looking in. That being said, Penn State is the type of program that some would consider a sleeping giant. A tremendous amount of history with Joe Paterno there, but Joe Paterno hasn't been there in a long time, and Penn State hasn't won a national championship in a long time. They're the type of program that is a huge, large, well-respected program, but they also have to battle against quite a few, shall we say, handicaps. Number one, yes, they have a good history. They also have bad history, and you all know what I mean by that. Number two, it's in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Getting to Penn State is difficult. Going to a game and then going home from a game, depending on where you live, is an absolute adventure to say the least. So there are some serious troubles when it comes to recruiting to that location. Some positives, they're pretty close to two major cities, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and really not that far from Cleveland or Northeast Ohio as well. And so they have that DMV recruiting thumbprint. They have the eastern part of the state of Ohio recruiting thumbprint. And of course, it is Penn State, so they could go nationally if they wanted to. Penn State, number 10 on this list. Number 9 is actually Clemson. Now, Clemson, I said, was new money. Two of our panelists had Clemson at number 9 on this list. Another one had them at number 7. And a third panelist did not include Clemson in their top 10. Clemson is the type of school who, yes, they've won a pair of national championships under Dabo Swinney within the most recent history, but outside of that, they only had one other national championship before him. And so it is a little bit new money, if you will. They do play in the weaker ACC, and as one panelist put, that's an advantage. The other panelist, which happened to be me, disagreed with that, thinking that playing in the ACC is an actual disadvantage for Clemson when it comes to ranking the job. It's hard to gauge what Clemson can do in NIL because Dabo's so against it. It seems like. So we'll see as he continues to accept this new era of college football, if the Tigers can continue to gain, if you will, in popularity. I think getting back to a CFP and actually doing something this upcoming year could help in raising the value of being the head coach at Clemson. But right now, the Tigers are at number 9. Number 8 is actually Notre Dame, and some might argue with me on this one. We had two panelists put Notre Dame at number 6 on their list. One panelist had them at number 8, and a fourth panelist didn't even include Notre Dame in their top 10. Marcus Freeman has done a lot, I think, to um, shine the image of Notre Dame once again. They've been to several national championships, but they haven't won one since the 80s. So it's been a long time for Notre Dame. Incredible amount of history, but that history also kind of fights against them a little bit. Plus, you're at a serious disadvantage when it comes to recruiting if you're going to be the head coach at Notre Dame. Some serious restrictions that administration and the fathers, if you will, place on the head coach at Notre Dame that a lot of other programs don't have to deal with. Plus, the academic standards at Notre Dame are incredibly high, which automatically limits some of the players that they can go after. So, Notre Dame, although it's a great program with steeped in a lot of tradition, it is a program, and it's a nationally recognized brand from coast to coast. All of those advantages. There are some serious disadvantages that keep this program from being in the top five, according to our panelists. Number 7. Let's go out to the West Coast. Let's talk about USC. Now, if Notre Dame is new money, USC is definitely some serious old money. USC is one of the blue bloods of college football, a tremendous amount of tradition, Heisman trophies, national championships, iconic stadium, iconic colors, iconic logo. And iconic problems as of recently. Haven't won one in a while. USC, I think, is kind of a sleeping giant. Everybody thought when Lincoln Riley went out there that they would just turn that ship around pretty quickly. He's finding it very difficult to do. Currently number one in the 2026 recruiting class. We'll see if they're able to hold on to that. Plenty of money IL if they want it from their donors, but also a fan base that seems to be very hot and cold, meaning when USC's good and popular, it's a nice ticket to have. When USC's not on top, the brand takes a major hit because the fans seem to be very bandwagony, if you know what I mean. So USC, although they're number 7 on this list, very easily could be a top 5 program if they ever can get things straightened out there in the city of Angels. Number 6, and this one is going to be incredibly interesting because one panelist did not have this team in their top 10, which is, to me, a serious hot take. One had them at number 8, another one had them at number 4, and this guy had them at number 2, and we're talking about Alabama. There is no, there is no I mean, they're all over the board with our panelists Sunday. From one of the best programs in college football to I don't even think they're in the top 10 anymore. That is incredible to me. They've got the history, they've got the brand, they've got the iconic look. They have a lot of national championships recently, and I mean a lot under Nick Saban. But I think depending on how you look at DeBoer is how you view their program currently. Now, myself personally, I look at Alabama and I say this: you don't want to be the guy who replaces the legend. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaced the legend. And whoever the next coach is at Alabama, if indeed DeBoer cannot get the ship straightened out there in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, that's the guy you want to be, because then Alabama, all of a sudden, even though those expectations are really high, they aren't as nearly as high as they were when Nick Saban was there, or when you were replacing Nick Saban immediately, because those expectations are just astronomical and through the roof. Rabid fan base, very vocal fan base, but a very loyal fan base. And we'll get into that in a little bit with a few future teams. But number 6 on this list is Alabama. All right. Let's move to the top 5. All right. Number 5 is actually going to be Oregon. Oregon comes in. 3 panelists had Oregon as high as 5, 2 at number 4, 1 didn't even have Oregon in their top 10. Again, kind of controversial program here. 0 national championships and takes a serious dip when USC is the top program out west. When USC's on top, Oregon usually takes a back seat. Because USC's not been on top, Oregon has bolstered themselves. Dan Lanning, current head coach, has Oregon looking really good in recruiting. The national brand is strong. They went into the Big Ten and won the Big Ten Conference last year in their first year in the Big Ten. The Ducks are obviously a force to reckon with. But again, no national championships. And if USC can get hot again, what does that mean for the Ducks overall, big picture on the national stage? Those are the questions that Dan Lanning and the Ducks have to face. Now, one of the big advantages for them is they've got Phil Knight, who has some serious deep pockets and seems to be highly motivated to do whatever it takes in the form of NIL to get the best recruiting classes he can, the best transfers he can, because he doggone wants to see a national championship won there in Eugene, Oregon before he passes away. And time is ticking. So, hot job today. Will it be a hot job tomorrow? Obviously, Phil Knight's money isn't going to just run dry as soon as he passes away. He'll continue to keep a lot of that money flowing to Eugene, Oregon, but will it be enough to sustain them, especially if USC is able to become a top 5 program once again? Only time will tell. Number 4, let's go on down south to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and talk about the LSU Tigers. Now, currently LSU is the type of program that, quite frankly, should be a top 5. If you ask me today, is it? Absolutely not. Not with Brian Kelly there, anyways. The most overrated coach in college football has got to be Brian Kelly. He's also the most cringeworthy head coach in college football as the last couple years. He's feeling the pressure down there in Baton Rouge, and he absolutely should. There's no reason why LSU shouldn't be a perennial power each and every single season. They should be making college football playoffs almost every single year. Keep in mind, they've won 3 national championships with 3 different coaches since the year 2000. Only one other school on this list has done that. LSU can be a winning program, absolutely. It just takes a little bit of effort. And that seems to be something that is just a miss when it comes to Brian Kelly is maximum effort. Hot recruiting bed, a rabid fan base, close to a huge metropolitan area. There's no reason why, given all those benefits, and they're close to Florida, and they're close to Texas, and close to Georgia, 3 of the hottest recruiting states to find talent. There's no reason why LSU shouldn't be at least a top 4 program. We currently have them sitting at number 4, but two of our panelists actually had them at number 6. So, actually, number 7, excuse me. So, LSU should be a top 5 program. Currently, it is not, but remember, this list is about jobs, the top jobs in college football. And I believe LSU is definitely a top 5 job in college football, especially if they run Brian Kelly out. That place is a sleeping giant, and there's no reason why LSU can't be on the same level as Alabama and Georgia each and every single year. Number 3 on this list. Let's talk about Texas, shall we? Texas was an underachieving program for quite a few years. Ever since Mac Brown won that last championship and then got ran out of Austin, the Longhorns have been searching for the right guy to lead this program back to promised land. It wasn't going to happen in the Big 12. The Big 12 conference just didn't have enough of the pizzazz that Texas needed in order to kind of bolster their recruiting, if you're their recruiting, if you will. So, hence the move to the SEC. So, another influx of money. There's plenty of NIL money there. A rumored $40 million having been spent already up to this point on this roster for 2025. They've got one of the hottest coaches in college football currently. They have one of the most iconic brands in college football, and now they're in the number 1 conference, some might argue, in college football. A conference that they, along with Georgia, seem to be kind of top billing in. And there's a lot of people going into 2025 who believe Texas is the team to beat this season in the SEC. Texas is absolutely a top five program. Number three, according to this panel, and everybody had them at either number two or number three on their list. The Longhorns are a top job. If the right man is Sarkisian, they will win a national championship. It just is going to take the right guy pushing the right buttons to see Texas to the promised land and hoisting the national championship once again for the Longhorns. Number two is the Dogs of Georgia. Now, I'm not nearly as high on Georgia as a lot of other people are. However, I understand the argument one might make as to why Georgia should be considered the top program or the top job in college football. Number one, they're kind of new money if you really look at it. Yes, they've got a pretty good tradition, but that tradition didn't necessarily result in multiple national championships until recently. Kirby Smart has the Bulldogs definitely going in the right direction. There's no doubt about that, especially now that Nick Saban's not around. However, year number one without Nick Saban in the SEC, sure, Georgia wins an SEC championship, but outside of that, the Georgia Bulldogs really faltered when it came to the college football playoff. Is Georgia going to replace, and more importantly, Kirby Smart, going to replace the dominance that you saw under Nick Saban and Alabama? I don't think so. I just don't think Georgia has that type of pizzazz, if you will, when it comes to multiple national championships and creating a dynasty. In fact, one might argue that if Kirby Smart fails to get Georgia back to a national championship and maybe Texas supplants them this year in the SEC as the number one team, that Kirby Smart might be under fire and might be feeling a little bit of pressure from that fan base because now that they've tasted national championships back to back, they're thirsty for blood. And quite frankly, Georgia historically has never been able to sustain that kind of success until recent. So because they've won two national championships back to back, major impressive, but can they continue to do so? That's the question. Now, according to the panelists here, it's the second best job in college football, and rightfully so. However, can they stay there? Georgia can kind of become the place a lot like Clemson. If they begin to falter and they have multiple seasons of underachieving, Georgia can fall out of the top five when it comes to best job in college football. Because even though they have a great recruiting base, even though they play in the SEC, that's part of the problem. They play in the SEC, and the competition level there is just much greater with teams like Alabama, teams like Texas, teams like LSU constantly knocking on the door each and every single season. Which leads us to the number one program that you should want to be at. The number one job in college football is right here in Columbus, Ohio. It's the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, a lot of people are going to say, you're just being a homer. And maybe we are. However, there's only one argument that can be made as to why Ohio State, well, two arguments, as to why Ohio State wouldn't be the number one job. Number one, it's in a northern climate. Okay, so you have to deal against weather. However, Urban Meyer gave us the blueprint on how to fight against that. You're going to play in cold climates in the NFL. You might as well come and get acclimated right now and get yourself ready for that. Great way to uh, great way to supplant that argument with a better one. The number two reason why people would say Ohio State isn't the best job in college football is because of the fan base. The fan base holds this program to an extremely high level. Um, it is the expectations here are through the roof. However, those expectations are why you do come to Ohio State. They have the tradition. They have the current winning status. They just are coming off a national championship. Like LSU, they have 3 national championships since the year 2000 with 3 different coaches. And oh, by the way, out of all the teams in this top 10, the one program with the most sustained success over the period of the last 60 to 80 years indeed has been Ohio State. Have they won the most national championships? No, that's Alabama, but they're a close second. Do they have the most dominance in a conference? Actually, they don't. Michigan has more conference championships than Ohio State does in its own conference. However, you will be far pressed to find a program that have more success when you average everything out than you will Ohio State. And oh, by the way, the argument about the fans, let me argue with you about this. If you win a national championship, and then if you can win a second one, you literally become an absolute legend. You are already supported like no one else in college football. Is NIL good? You better believe it's pretty good. Is it the best? Maybe not. Texas this year, but it's up there. You have the tradition, you have the history, you have a great recruiting base in Ohio. You can recruit nationally pretty easy. Columbus, the city, is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. All of this is an advantage. But if you can win a second national championship, buddy, let me tell you something. They're putting the statue of you up outside of the horseshoe. You are going to be a legend if you can do that. And Ryan Day is already halfway there to legendary status. And one might argue, having won a national championship, he's already there and on the minds of a lot of people in this fan base. So, the number one job, in my opinion, indeed is the job in Columbus, Ohio, with the Ohio State Buckeyes. All right. I hope you enjoy this little synopsis this morning of the top 10 that we discussed in last night's Sunday night roundtable. Here is today's scripture verse for you. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 6. Humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. I hope each and every single one of you have an absolute fantastic week. Enjoy your Monday, everybody. Hopefully, some good big recruiting news will land today. We're supposed to hear about that, so keep your ear to the ground. Hopefully, that is a positive day. Again, enjoy your Monday, everybody. Remember, you all know what to do. Smash that like button. Leave me a comment down in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell. Get notified every time we go live or a new video drops. We drop new videos just about on your lap almost every single day. Don't miss the call-in show tonight with Chris, the Wild Man, 8 o'clock Eastern. See you all then. Be kind to one another. And remember,